I want to thank the Minister. It was interesting, during the referendum campaign, somebody said to me, I saw the Children's Rights Minister on the television the other night. It's interesting that sometimes our legacy or what we contribute is actually defined by the public, and I think that, ultimately Frances Fitzgerald is going to be remembered as the Children's Rights Minister. I think that I'm very heartened by by what she said today. The focus on early intervention is really great to hear. The emphasis on listening to young people is also great to hear. And this, the concept of accountability. I mean, it would be great to have an agency that is accountable to the public, to children, to the families, to the people it serves. And I'm hearing all of those messages very loud and clear. So I think from the Children's Rights Alliance perspective and from the organisations running today, we're delighted, Minister, to hear those sort of commitments. So thank you very much. I just want to go back to a couple of housekeeping notes, just to say that the exits here and the exits are at the back. Also that more people wanted to attend than we were able to facilitate here today. So it is being live streamed on the websites of all of the organisations that have organised today. There's also Twitter on hashtag #ChildFSA. So just for people to be aware of that. I'm going to move on now. Of course, we heard about implementation. The responsibility for implementation, the easy job rests with Gordon Jeyes. I understand he gets a full 8 hours sleep and all that stuff. He's very popular among all of the professionals in the area. This man has an incredible pedigree, an OBE for services to children, has vast experience from the UK and Scotland, and of course has been working here for a number of years. We're delighted that he could join us today, and he's very welcome. Gordon, over to you.
Good morning. Popularity and accountability is an unusual combination. I hope we all noted as we came through that today's slogan is "Children should be supervised at all times." My remarks this morning are sponsored by the letter R and the number 5. Number 1. We swapped our personal scruples for a solid public apparatus that kept us in tune, in step with what was proper behaviour. On the 19th of February 2013, the Taoiseach rose magnificently to confront a challenge facing all of us, wishing to create a better Ireland. How to ensure that our public apparatus is a true reflection of our collective beliefs and values. Not an easy challenge. Acknowledgement of past failures is, however, no guarantee of future success. So we need to pick up the Taoiseach's challenge. What is today's received perspective? What will we look back on and say, we could have done more? After all, it's easy to do outrage. We can condemn with impunity when we are not directly involved. Criticism from a distance takes little skill. A far greater challenge for us all is how to engage through positive action. The challenge is to acknowledge joint responsibility, to be believers and builders, to confront the mindset that easily identifies the responsibilities of others but no reflection on the personal contribution. Together, we must find a path which acknowledges the individual integrity and humanity of each citizen from birth throughout life, which creates a 21st century Ireland prioritising the needs of children whom we are tasked with nurturing. For 2 years, I have led Child and Family Services in the HSE. I've witnessed the dedication of staff always willing to go the extra mile. I've acknowledged our failure on occasion to deliver the service which children require. When I began my post, I said, and still do, that we wish to lead services which are consistent, which are transparent, and which are accountable. I never expected the job to be easy. It would have been interesting if it had been a little less challenging. So what have we done to act? Well, we have 17 area managers, 4 service directors, clear lines of accountability. As even judges have commented to me, I'm a bit stuck. I used to enjoy saying, I never know who's in charge. We know who's in charge. We have to stand up and take responsibility. Reports into serious incidents and child deaths are published at regular intervals, and lessons disseminated and learned and accountability pushed down through the system. There are a number of deep-rooted system failures which require addressing, complex issues which will not be resolved overnight, many of which affect every aspect of Irish society. And over-dependency on voluntary approaches and underuse of supervision orders, to pick some examples not immediately within the agency's control. But we continue to work with staff. I offer high unconditional support in order that I can challenge relentlessly to seek to improve services, which we are doing, albeit at a pace that we need to accelerate. There is no easy fix. Real lasting reform will only come from obtaining a clear evidence pictures of where weakness lies and a thought-out sustainable plan to address them. Service improvement is a work in progress, and we wish services which are locally delivered but nationally led, with direct intervention by a newly developed quality assurance function proportionate to weakness, national involvement where local response has proved inadequate. There's reform so that we are more reliable, more credible in our engagement with the court services. There are changes in how we deliver services in the range of domestic, sexual and gender-based violence for families and communities where violence threatens children's well-being. There's fundamental reform in how all of us in this room work together in an integrated way, clear regarding our roles and responsibilities in a national service delivery framework. Identifying failure, itemising the weakness is merely the starting point in the process of reform. We've done that. We've said there must be accountability. We have deconstructed. We've repaired where we can. But now is a different time. Now is the time to build, to redesign, to reimagine. I start a new phase in my engagement serving children in Ireland as CEO designate of the new agency. And we face our greatest challenge to work together in a spirit of positive cooperation for Ireland's children. And in this critical endeavour, history will judge us. And history favours not those who pointed to weakness, but those who build upon strength. In restating our commitment to children, we must ensure a return to basic values, the 3 R's, and a service fit for purpose: rights, responsibility and respect. Now, I'm no philosopher, and as some in the audience would testify, no lawyer. So I tread tentatively. The subject of rights is a complex one. I note, however, that Ireland's commitment to fair process, to the overwhelming rights of one side, has sometimes inhibited the protection of children. The right to fairness imposed by issues of always seeking to go beyond reasonable doubt rather than acting safely on reasonable probability has inhibited our capacity to protect the child. I also add that I have a problem considering rights in isolation. Earned rights. Rights are earned. Rights are dependent on our obligations. Children have long been an unheard voice, but their rights are inalienable. But rights afforded in an age-appropriate way. Rights properly weighed in circumstances where society recognises each of us our obligations, the one to the other, and duly acknowledges our collective duties to protect our children. As a Director of Children's Services in several countries, I recognise my particular responsibilities, Paul, my accountabilities. Yet I can undertake my duties only with the consent of the community, only with the support of families who respect their children's rights and fulfil their familial obligations. For all the particular difficulties faced by Ireland in 2013, there are magnificent opportunities here to develop new practice and new ways of working. As CEO designate, we need to support quality childhood and enhanced opportunities for children and for young people. An agency based on a concept of mutual respect. Children and families respected, whatever their challenges. Staff respected as professionals while held accountable for performance. A public apparatus which respects the beliefs and values of the society it serves. Children seen, children heard, children represented, children consulted. To quote the Taoiseach again, a very different Ireland with a very different consciousness. Rights earned, respect retained, responsibilities met. 2. Constraints. To deliver for Ireland's children against a backdrop of straitened financial circumstances and public service reform is not without its challenge. We must recognise these while refusing to allow such challenges to become a mantra for inertia. In seeking an appropriate 21st century balance among rights, responsibilities and respect, we recognise a further 3 Rs, the constraining Rs, the restraint of our financial circumstances to account for every euro of the taxpayer's contribution. The R of recruitment issues caused by artificial, externally opposed ceilings on our workforce design. The reform which is constant and ongoing to an extent of which Mao would have been proud of. But the issue for us is taking our reform out of a health service which is itself reforming and in the process of great change. So we need to look to the programme of government. We need to look and overcome these challenges in a search for fixed points. So we need to have this on new relationships focused on services delivered decisively at the most local practical level. Delivery determined by individual need, not professional bureaucratic demarcation and delineation. We need a society prepared to discriminate positively in favour of those whom circumstances have disadvantaged, a concept Ireland seems to find difficult. We need organisations which are inclusive and outward-looking. We need professionals willing to set aside traditional ways of working, to embrace new pathways to service, to focus on outcomes. What works is what matters. The nuts and bolts of a new agency are being assembled by teams dedicated to creating the strong foundation for its future. Thus, the work with health colleagues to develop new customer-focused fund-holding mechanisms, new partnerships among mental health, disability and children's services within a framework of primary care. There are no boundary solutions. Families don't live in silos. The work on legislation by colleagues in the Department of Children and Youth Affairs and in parliamentary drafting. Beyond this practical manifestation of a new agency lies the need to commit to the new ways of working, behaviour based on clear core values and quality customer-orientated relationships that make services effective. A new agency with its roots in the community through the involvement of the Family Support Agency and the educational perspective of education welfare services, thus uniquely placed to offer a full range of services on the continuum of care and childhood, recognising the strengths and contributions of children, of families, of schools, of communities. One child, one plan, many, many perspectives. So standing still is not an option, nor can we be paralysed by the obstacles in our path to a better place for Ireland's children. Resources are certainly an issue, but they cannot be an excuse for not taking action. Children's futures will not wait while we address past failings. It will certainly be challenging, but we can work with current resources, maximising a multidisciplinary approach to deliver reforms, conscious of children first, always. 3. Judicial accountability. Our legal system plays a pivotal role in protecting children. The recent amendment to the Constitution was necessary to ensure an accountability which puts the child's voice and right to protection at the heart of legal proceedings. I believe it a necessary emphasis in order that judges balance the full range of constitutional challenges, including the best interests of each and every child. But a courtroom setting is not the best place to deal with family failings. The needs of children, particularly in the context of family breakdown, chaotic lifestyles and dysfunctional relationships, are not resolved in a framework that is adversarial and more suited to a final decision of guilt or innocence. There are no losers when families break down. I beg your pardon? There are only losers when families break down. Judicial oversight is critical for the protection of children when family affairs finally go before the courts. And I fully accept that legal representation assists in an environment alien to families and indeed to those providing a service to them. But is full legal combat always in the best interests of children whom we are professionally and morally obliged to protect? In my opinion, there are many occasions when going legal is akin to pressing the nuclear button. The Irish legal system is a bit like the Cold War. Unless there is some de-escalation, some common purpose, increased shared focus, there is madness. Spiralling legal engagement, unproductive costs, a system without credibility, leading to mad, mutually assured destruction. And the greatest collateral damage will be our children. For my part, I seek to reform those legal routes for child and family agency will have responsibility. Following visits throughout the country in summer of 2012, noting serious concerns being raised regarding inconsistency in other matters in all areas with regard to court procedures. So we've been looking at our relationships with the court, and we'll shortly be issuing a standard template for the improvement of court reports, initial training for less experienced social workers, and a full training programme, a guidance document on court procedures, a learning digest of legal advices, and a reduction and greater discipline in those who can commission legal work by the agency. These measures are an effort on the part of social work to be reliable partners in the legal process and to improve the manner in which they represent professional opinions and professional expertise. Others engaged in the legal process need to look to their contribution. Unnecessary legal representation, unnecessary escalation, less cost-effective solutions all represent a poor use of resources that could be used on preventative issues at the front line. In particular, the reform of the guardians ad litem system is required. Guardians ad litem do play an important role. I have met many who are significant and who are wise. As independent court officers, the GAL offers vulnerable children clear legal protection. Some confusion, however, exists requiring clarification of the role standards, the registration, the regulation of the system. This requires immediate address. It is not beyond us to create a system that is not adversarial, that puts the needs of children first, that recognises in damaged or abusive or neglectful relationships there is no right or wrong, only the need for improvement, for support, for hope, for stability. a different Ireland with a different consciousness, a collective commitment. 4, social work reform. Don't like contradicting the Minister, but I'm not going to go into great detail on social work reform, though it's there in my notes, listing the main themes, the 7 themes which we pulled issues together in. And there is an enormous of work going on within daily activity. And it's essential that underpinning this for children's rights, community consent and traditional accountability for social work to continue to improve its performance and be respected for its expertise and for their daily commitment. I was recruited to lead that programme of social work reform. That contract, my time with HSE, has concluded, but the social work reform programme has clearly some distance to go. Much done, much still to do, but quality staff working in difficult circumstances against a background of restraint and restriction. The social work reform programme should not be confused with the aspirations of the agency. Social work reform was about repairing and improving the leadership and structure relating to the perceived weaknesses of the past. For those of you counting, you can smile now. 5. Agency aspiration. In setting up an agency, there is a unique opportunity to create a new approach to the delivery of services for children in Ireland. From the beginning, I articulated a vision of we need an agency which is outward-looking, inclusive, evidence-based, supportive when appropriate, assertive for our children when necessary. An agency staffed by professionals clear in their values, wisdom, integrity, compassion, justice, respect and courage. Consistent in adherence to these values is one thing to identify another, to identify with a value, quite another to put it into practice. An agency accountable for our behaviours, mindful of our limitations and our need to work as servants of engaged communities, of inclusive schools, of responsive health centres and responsible families and individuals. We cannot do it alone, but together we can make very, very significant improvement. So the agency is about freeing the way we work, the priorities we set, imagining and realising more effective services for Ireland's children. The agency will build on the participation standards that are initially being developed by Anne in the Department of Children and Youth Affairs. Children consulted on all decisions that affect them. The wisdom of children unleashed to improve the quality of policy development and decision making. An agency with credibility to champion the cause of positive discrimination. There are over 6,000 children in the care of the state. The care of the state. They are not solely the responsibility of children and family services. Are their needs prioritised? Are their rights promoted in relation to school admission procedures, annual health and dental checks, student grants for those who have come through the care system? For example, the question of supporting students without parents was raised as a consequence of the difficulties our grant system encountered earlier this year. They could not be prioritised. Why not? How do we move to a clear system of corporate parenting and my responsibility for children to your assistance in community parenting, to sponsored support such as apprenticeships, providing for children whose life chances have been limited by society, to a collective endeavour by a very different Ireland with a different consciousness. To an agency that aspires to access to education for every child. Education welfare, the issue is not solely school attendance. The issue is not solely school completion. It is building on the improvements of homeschool liaison, and it is fundamentally about access to education for every child. It is the gaps in education. It is the difficulties in admission for our most vulnerable. It is the need to work in an education system and design alternative education for those too often denied a school place. It is an agency that wishes to ensure the sharing of information is in the interests of the child. I have never known a child suffer through information being shared. I have known children suffer through information not being shared. An agency where the duty begins with the referrer and risks cannot merely be passed on. We have rights and we have responsibilities. It is an agency that seeks to work with the family resource centres to build on the outstanding contribution children make to the community in sports, in arts and culture, and create initiatives that support this work, that develops local entitlements in sports and arts, participation that gives young people opportunities to contribute. We celebrate, we come together as a community around our children, give them opportunities to be resilient, to be enterprising, to fulfil their potential. No one said it would be easy, but the opportunities to reimagine are considerable. To deliver our responsibilities to all our children, there is a need for mutual endeavour and mutual, unconditional respect. Our shared aspiration is for children in Ireland to fulfil their potential and be healthy in every aspect of their life, physically and mentally. The shared aspiration is for children who develop a keen sense of themselves through the projects that they take up in the world. The shared aspiration is children who make good decisions about their physical, mental and sexual health. If we've learned anything in recent years about improving the services for our most vulnerable children, it's about the need for concerted community action, a full range of perspectives from all disciplines, and a recognition of the strengths and contribution of children, of families, of communities, a new consciousness, a collective effort. So, colleagues, friends and critics, are we able to confront the mindset, the groupthink, to today's received perspective, today's proper behaviour or appropriate views? An Ireland with community commitment, a collective consciousness, shared responsibility, decision-making positively for the most vulnerable, prioritising our children. Thank you.
I suppose all I can say is what a vision. You know, if we can deliver, if the HSE, if the new agency and if all of the voluntary organisations and all those working in this area and the communities can deliver on that vision, it will be a fantastic achievement. A couple of things struck me. I think that it's very heartening to hear a commitment to listening to and engaging with children and young people directly. Evidence-based best practice is also extremely heartening to hear about. But I suppose the last thing I would like to say is that on behalf of all the membership of the Children's Rights Alliance and indeed all the organisations that work in this area, I want to say that we are also committed to taking responsibility, that we will support absolutely this new agency. We will do everything we can to drive forward to ensure that children and young people are cared for better in this country. And I think Gordon and the Minister should hear that commitment, because it's one that we've always had, but that it's worth restating again, given the sort of vision that we've heard from Gordon.